have a very busy day today on the homestead. I want to try and get all of the garden planted. Hopefully today, finish planting the entire garden, which is a lot. Down below, the below garden, because we do have a garden up top that we just want to do. It's less of a garden, more just a field of corn that we want to try out just as an experiment. But we have a busy day to get the garden. Everything planted at least. Maybe not everything, you know, trellises and all that set up, but everything at least in the ground that I want in the ground. There are a few things I want to plant seed-wise in the greenhouse. There's a lot to do, but first, obviously, sourdough. So I'm gonna cover this sourdough, put it in a nice warm spot because it's also a little late for me to be starting it. But it's very warm out, so I don't think it'll have any issues fermenting. So we're gonna cover it. We're gonna let her sit for an hour, get some stuff started in the garden, and then we'll come back in. So the first thing that I wanna get in the ground today are the rest of the onions. So I'm gonna do, I think, 2 rows of white onions. I put the red onions in last week. And then I think I got heat stroke, so I had to stop. But we're gonna put 2 rows of white onions down, and then the rest of the front of this garden, I think I'm going to plant wildflowers. So anywhere where I have like extra space, I want to put wildflowers in the garden. So that is what we're going to start with. Okay guys, so I got 2 rows of white onions planted. And it is so hot. My fiance brought a canopy out here for me to work under because, like I said, I think I got heat stroke last weekend, so I have to be a little cautious, but I want to get as much as I can planted. So there is where these green spikes are, or I'm just using them to mark my rows right now. There's a huge gap, and then I'm gonna put bush beans along the very edge of the garden, because if you plant bush beans too close to onions, the onions give off of a chemical in the soil, and it could potentially inhibit just the productivity of the bush beans, but they can also hinder the nitrogen fixing properties that bush beans give off. So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to do a single row of bush beans along here, and I really want a lot of beans this year. So I think I'm also going to plant some along the top of the garden near the corn, because the corn love nitrogen. The bush bean variety that I'm using are the Provider bush beans, and I got all of my seeds from Heirloom Canada, so these are heirloom varieties. So all of the seeds that I'm planting are heirlooms, or very close to heirlooms. The corn are the only thing that are not 100% heirloom, but trying to stay as close to heirloom variety as possible with everything in the garden, and chemical free. Only thing I might have to put on, but I want to do some research on it, is blood meal, and solely for the nitrogen that comes out of it, because it's a first year garden, it's very clayey garden. We gotta give it as much help as we can, along with compost, leaves, all the fun stuff. And I need these guides because I didn't use guides when I was planting last weekend, and my potatoes are not bad. I can tell where my potatoes are. I sort of hilled them already, so they're a little easier to figure out where they are. But I put a marker in the front of the row for my red onions, and I did a little brush the soil off because I'm impatient and I wanted to see what was happening with the onions under the soil. And turns out my row wasn't that straight, so it's kind of hard to tell where to water and where the onions are going to come up until they actually come up. So I need the guide for straight rows, straight-ish rows. So I have them planted about between 10 and 15 centimeters apart. Then I'm gonna lightly cover them with about 2 centimeters of soil. So I have the row of bush beans planted along the front of the garden. And I was just looking and I was thinking and I was going back and forth because right now the amount of wildflower seeds are not enough for this area. So what I'm thinking is I have bush pickle cucumbers, and they're supposed to be great companion plants for both beans because they're heavy feeders on nitrogen, and also onions. So, and they need quite a bit of space, and this is an odd sized area right here. What I'm thinking is putting a row of cucumbers in the middle because it wants like 60 centimeters, like a meter between each plant. So I'm thinking if I put it down the middle between the beans and the white onions, it'll be a perfect spot for them. Okay, so we're in the greenhouse because it's a little shady right now in here and I need to get out of the heat for a little bit. But as you can see, I separated some of the lettuce out, thinned out some lettuce, and the spinach is doing really good in the greenhouse. So now I'm gonna move some stuff around in here because there's a few things that I want to seed in here and let them do their thing. So I think for sure the peppers are going in the garden today. So I'm gonna move all of the peppers onto the flat tray that I have. That way they're easier to bring out. And I think if I have time, maybe some tomatoes. I'm hoping to get everything in, but I'm having to like prioritize things. So the peppers are gonna get moved. This whole area cleared out now, and so I'm thinking I'm gonna do radishes and then some carrots in here because these are deep enough, I think, for carrots, and I want to try it out and see how well they do in here. So I'm actually gonna do carrots first. I have 2 varieties of carrots that I want to plant in here. I'm gonna try out these tender sweet carrots and see how well they do in these trays. I have all of these pepper plants that I have to put out, 16 in total. So I'm thinking in front of the potatoes, beside all of my brassicas, there is this nice spot. So I'm thinking I'm gonna put them here. Now I did mess up when I was seeding mine, and I labeled them, and then I moved them around. And I didn't put the labels on the actual peppers themselves, so I have no idea what peppers are what. So there's going to be no rhyme or reason to the variety of peppers that I'm planting. It's just gonna be a fun little, surprise when they start to actually give us peppers, what peppers are coming from what plants. I'm definitely not getting the garden planted fully today. It's hot. And it's starting to get into the evening and we still have to make dinner. And it's Sunday, so I want to enjoy a little bit of time. But something I need and really want to get into the ground are my tomatoes. So the last thing I'm planting today are the tomatoes, and then I'm going to show you guys the really cool water that my fiance made, because we have no way of watering this garden at the moment. We just tested it out, so I guess we do have a way now, but we didn't until a few minutes ago. We were doing it by hand with pails. So now, you'll see. I want to get all of the tomatoes planted in the garden. One, they just need out. I think that's part of why they're not getting very big. But two, if they don't survive out here, I'm still within a window where I can go to the greenhouse and get starts like these ones and still get a nice harvest of tomatoes at the end of the year. So all of these tomatoes that I'm planting today are indeterminates. I have Homestead Amish paste, maybe one or two cherry tomatoes, but I have cherry tomatoes out already and mine aren't doing the greatest, so we'll see. But I just started marking out my rows and we are going to see how many tomatoes we can get in the ground. This is like the most important crop for us personally. Between sauces, condiments, fresh eating tomatoes, this is like the most important crop for us. We are tomato fiends. So I'm excited to get these in the ground. So we got about 20 tomato plants planted today, which is so good. There are a few more tomato plants that I left in the greenhouse that I don't know if they're gonna survive or not, so I left them in there, give them another week, see how they do. And we put up this fencing for the indeterminate tomatoes to vine up. We did that off camera because that was an off camera task. And then we have 5 tomato cages that I'm gonna put over these guys, and then we have to get a few more tomato cages for everything else. And if I end up putting the other tomatoes in, they're gonna need something, because we did not have enough fencing for all of this, because this was left behind by the previous owners. So, but now that I have my seedlings in, we already watered the front part of the garden with the peppers and everything we planted today, but we have nothing over here to water these plants with. So my fiance came up with this plan of, he got a 55-gallon drum from an auto parts store, and he got this pump from Amazon. It was like $60. It runs off of a normal tool battery or Milwaukee battery in this little case right here, and we can use it to water the garden with the 55-gallon drum. He made the wagon for it so we can haul it with the four-wheeler, so I can pull it from the house way over there to the garden, and then I don't need help if he's busy doing something. So we're gonna use it. A watered garden, and it didn't take 500 years. So I didn't get everything I wanted planted in the garden today. We still have a lot more we gotta plant. But we got a lot of important things in the garden today. If you want to see what we planted last week, I'll leave the video here. And then I will see you next week where we hopefully get the rest of the garden planted. Bye!